The maintenance tunnels beneath Threshold 7 Colony were dark and cold. Metal pipes ran along the walls, dripping water that echoed through the empty passageways. Daniel had worked as a mechanic on this station for nearly 15 years. He knew every corner, every vent, and every sound the machinery made. But today he heard something different. It was a sound he had never heard before. A strange noise, like glass breaking mixed with an animal's cry of pain. Daniel stopped pushing his equipment cart and listened carefully. The sound came again, weaker this time, from somewhere beyond the sealed containment panel to his left. Most mechanics would have ignored it and reported the strange noise to their supervisor. Daniel was different. His curiosity always got the better of him. He set down his tools and approached the panel. It was old, covered with dust and rust. The lock mechanism was broken, which meant someone or something had forced it open from the inside. Daniel pulled the panel aside and peered into the darkness beyond. At first he saw nothing. Then his eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through small cracks in the walls. What he saw made his heart stop. There, huddled in the corner of a small containment pod, was a creature he had only read about in science fiction books. A dragon. But not a large, terrifying dragon from myths and legends. This was a baby dragon no bigger than a house cat. Her scales shimmered with a bronze color that seemed to glow softly in the darkness. She was the most beautiful and terrifying thing Daniel had ever seen. The dragon thrashed violently inside the pod. Her tiny claws scraped against the metal walls, creating high-pitched screams. Her breathing was fast and uneven, almost gasping. Daniel could see she was in extreme pain or distress. Something was very wrong. The environmental stabilizer that should have kept her safe and calm was completely dark. No lights. No power. Nothing. Daniel's training told him he should immediately report this to his commanding officer. This was clearly not a standard maintenance issue. This was an alien creature and reporting it was protocol. But something in him could not walk away. He had seen that look before, that desperate, panicked look. It reminded him of his daughter Emily years ago when she had been sick in the hospital. She had looked at him with those same terrified eyes, begging without words for help. Emily had died when she was only 8 years old. A disease the doctors could not cure, despite all their advanced technology and knowledge. Daniel had held her hand as she passed away. He had whispered words of comfort to her, even though he knew she could not hear him. That was 20 years ago, but the pain never completely went away. Now, looking at this suffering creature, Daniel felt that old pain wake up inside him. He could not let another living being die if he could prevent it. Even if it was an alien dragon. Even if it was not human. "Okay, little one," Daniel whispered, though he knew the dragon could not understand his words. "I'm going to help you. Just hold on." Daniel ran back to his equipment cart and began gathering supplies. He grabbed his tools, his diagnostic scanner, and various maintenance materials. But as he looked through his collection, he realized that nothing he had would work on alien biology. He had no medical equipment. He had no training in dragon physiology. He had only his mechanical knowledge and his desperation to save a life. Then he saw it. A canister of biodegradable coolant used for machinery maintenance. The label said it was safe for most organic materials. It was designed to cool down hot machinery without damaging sensitive components. It was not meant for living creatures, but it was all he had. Daniel grabbed the canister and also found a small bottle of soap lubricant used for door hinges and mechanical joints. An idea began to form in his mind. It was crazy, completely illogical, but it was his only chance. He hurried back to the dragon's pod. The creature's condition was getting worse. Her breathing was more shallow now, her movements weaker. Time was running out. Daniel quickly mixed a small amount of the coolant with the soap lubricant in a spray bottle he found in his cart. He had no idea if this would work. He had no scientific basis for what he was about to do. But he had to try something. With shaking hands, Daniel activated the spray bottle. The mixture came out in a fine mist, breaking into thousands of tiny bubbles. The bubbles floated through the air, catching the weak light and creating small rainbows as they drifted slowly downward. It was beautiful and strange and completely unexpected. The dragon's reaction was immediate and dramatic. Her violent thrashing stopped. Her head turned, following the bubbles as they floated past her. Her golden eyes, which had been wild and filled with fear, suddenly focused on the shimmering bubbles. She watched them with complete attention, as if nothing else in the universe mattered except these strange, glowing spheres. Daniel kept spraying. More bubbles filled the small space. They moved through the air in slow, graceful patterns, reflecting light in every direction. The dragon's breathing began to slow down. Her claws stopped scratching. Her muscles began to relax. Within just a few minutes, the creature that had been dying moments before was now calm and peaceful, her eyes following each bubble with quiet fascination. Daniel sat down on the floor, exhausted and emotional. Tears ran down his face as he watched the baby dragon breathe normally, her panic completely gone. He had done it. He had saved her life with nothing but creativity and kindness. But Daniel did not know that someone had been watching him the entire time. High above the station, hidden in the darkness of space, ancient eyes had observed every single moment of his compassion and courage. Those eyes belonged to someone very important, someone very powerful. And that someone was about to change everything. The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly around the enormous dragon vessel. It was shaped like a creature itself, with curved metal wings that could stretch for miles and a body that seemed to breathe with its own life. This was not a normal spaceship. This was the throne ship of Empress Velmora, the most powerful being in the Draconic Collective. She ruled over thousands of star systems and commanded fleets of warships that could destroy entire civilizations. She was ancient beyond human comprehension, having lived for more than 3,000 years. Her scales were dark as midnight, and her eyes burned with the gold fire of 1,000 suns. Velmora sat in her observation chamber, hidden high above the Threshold 7 colony. The chamber was cloaked with advanced technology that made the ship completely invisible to human detection systems. This invisibility allowed her to watch the colony without being seen or detected. She had been watching for many weeks, tracking the thermal signature of one specific creature. That creature was her daughter. Her stolen daughter. The baby dragon named Lyris had been taken from the Dragon Kingdom by black market traders. These traders sold living creatures to the highest bidder, caring nothing for the lives they destroyed. They had sold Lyris to human scientists on Threshold 7, who kept her in a laboratory pod for research and study. Velmora had discovered this crime only recently, and her rage had been absolute and terrible. She had traveled across the galaxy to find her daughter and punish those who had taken her. Her plan was simple and brutal. She would retrieve Lyris. She would destroy the entire colony as punishment for their negligence. She would burn everything to ash and let the humans know the price of stealing from the Draconic Collective. Velmora had ordered her weapons officers to prepare for total annihilation. The colony had only hours left to exist. But then, through the hidden sensors she had infiltrated into the colony's computer system, Velmora saw something that stopped her cold. She watched as a human male, a mechanic named Daniel, discovered her daughter in the maintenance tunnels. The creature was in crisis, her life support systems had failed, and she was dying. Velmora leaned forward in her seat, her massive claws gripping the armrest with such force that the metal bent. She expected to see a human scientist performing some cold medical procedure. She expected to see calculation and selfishness. Instead, she saw something completely different. The human did not call for help. He did not follow protocol or report to his supervisors. He did not even consider his own safety or career. Instead, he sat beside her suffering daughter and wept. Real tears rolled down his weathered face as he looked at the small dragon. Velmora had never seen a human show emotion like this. Her species believed humans were incapable of genuine feeling. They believed humans operated only on logic and self-interest. Then the human did something extraordinary. With no training, no equipment designed for dragons, and no expectation of reward, he created something beautiful. He made bubbles. Simple, shimmering bubbles that floated through the air. The Empress watched as her daughter's panic slowly transformed into fascination. She watched the baby dragon's breathing calm. She watched as the human's compassion saved a life that was precious beyond measure. Velmora felt something strange happen inside her chest. It was an unfamiliar sensation, something she had not experienced in centuries. Her anger began to crack and fade. In its place came something else. Something powerful and unexpected. Recognition. The Empress understood in that moment that she had been wrong about humans. For thousands of years, her species had looked upon human civilization with contempt and disgust. They saw humans as inferior creatures, incapable of the noble emotions that dragons possessed. They believed humans were greedy, selfish, and violent. The Draconic Collective had never attempted true diplomacy with humanity. Why would they negotiate with a species they considered barely above animals? But this human, this simple mechanic, had just shown more genuine compassion than Velmora had witnessed in any dragon general or noble. He had asked nothing in return for saving a life. He expected no reward, no recognition, no benefit. He acted purely from the goodness of his heart because he could not bear to watch suffering. This was a form of strength that Velmora had never before understood. As Velmora watched Daniel comfort the baby dragon with whispered words and gentle movements, the Empress made a decision that would change the fate of both civilizations. She would not destroy the colony. She would not rain fire and destruction upon innocent humans. Instead, she would go down to the surface and meet this remarkable creature face to face. But she would not go as an aggressor. She would go as a seeker of truth. Velmora stood from her throne, her enormous body rising to full height. Her wings unfurled, each one spanning hundreds of meters. She looked down at the small, fragile human colony below. She thought about how easy it would be to destroy everything. How simple it would be to assert her power and dominance over this tiny outpost of humanity. But she had learned something more important in the last few minutes than she had learned in 3,000 years of ruling empires. She had learned that strength was not measured by the ability to destroy. True strength came from understanding. True power came from compassion. True greatness came from the willingness to change your mind when presented with truth. The Empress activated her communication system and gave new orders to her fleet. The weapons officers looked at their screens in confusion. The Empress was not ordering an attack. She was ordering the cloaking shields to be lowered. She was ordering a landing sequence to begin. She was going to meet this human named Daniel. What neither of them knew was that this single meeting, born from bubbles and tears and unexpected compassion, would reshape the future of two entire civilizations. Daniel sat beside the baby dragon, watching her breathe peacefully. The bubbles had stopped floating, but the small creature remained calm. Her golden eyes were half closed, and her tiny claws rested gently against the metal floor. She was still alive. He had done it. Against all odds, with nothing but creativity and desperation, he had saved her life. Daniel wiped the tears from his face and smiled weakly. He thought about Emily again. He wished he could have saved her the same way. He wished that somewhere, somehow, his daughter knew that he had just saved another life in her memory. The thought brought both sadness and comfort to his heart. Then everything changed. The entire station began to shake violently. Alarms screamed through the speakers. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere, casting the tunnels in a terrifying red glow. Daniel grabbed onto a metal pipe to keep from falling. Above him, dust and loose debris rained down from the ceiling. He heard the sound of metal groaning and machinery breaking. Something catastrophic was happening to the station. Daniel looked down at the baby dragon. She had woken from her calm state and was becoming frightened again. Her breathing quickened. Her small body trembled. Daniel held her close, trying to protect her with his own body. He had no idea what was happening, but he knew he would shield this creature from harm no matter what came. The shaking stopped as suddenly as it had begun. The alarms cut off. The emergency lights turned off. In the sudden silence, Daniel heard something that made his blood run cold. Heavy footsteps. Large, deliberate footsteps that echoed through the metal tunnels. Something massive was approaching. Then she appeared. Empress Velmora filled the entire tunnel opening with her enormous body. She had to bend her massive head to fit through the space. Her scales were dark as midnight, and they caught what little light existed in the tunnels, making her shimmer like living shadow. Her wings were folded against her back, but even folded, they seemed to take up most of the available space. Her eyes burned with golden fire that was both beautiful and terrifying. Daniel's entire body froze. He could not move. He could barely breathe. He had seen pictures of dragons in old books, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of standing before a living, breathing, actual dragon of such immense size and power. This creature could crush him with a single step. She could burn him to ash with a breath. She could end his life in 1,000 different ways. Daniel did the only thing his mind could manage. He stood up, and he positioned himself between Empress Velmora and the baby dragon. "Do not hurt her," Daniel said, his voice shaking with fear. "If you want to fight, fight me. But please do not hurt the baby." The Empress's massive head tilted slightly to one side. For a moment nothing happened. Then, surprisingly, she lowered her enormous body to the ground. She lay down in the tunnel, making herself less threatening. Her golden eyes focused on Daniel with an intensity that made him feel like she was looking directly into his soul. "I am Empress Velmora," she said. Her voice was deep and powerful, like distant thunder rolling across an ocean. But it was also calm and controlled. "That creature you are protecting is my daughter. Her name is Lyris. She was stolen from me." Daniel's legs felt weak. He wanted to run, but he could not leave the baby dragon alone. His mind raced with terrible thoughts. This massive creature before him was the dragon's mother. She had come to take Lyris back. And now Daniel was standing in her way, trying to protect a creature that belonged to this powerful being. "I am sorry," Daniel said, surprising himself with his courage. I did not know she was your daughter. I found her dying. Her life support system had failed. She was in terrible pain. I could not just let her die. I know, Velmora said simply. I watched you. I saw everything you did. I saw your tears. I saw your compassion. I saw you risk your safety for a creature you did not know. This is why I did not destroy your station. Daniel blinked. You watched me? And you did not attack the colony? I came here to destroy this place, Velmora said, her voice heavy with the weight of centuries. I came here to punish the humans for taking my daughter. But I saw you save her life with nothing but kindness and creativity. I saw something in you that my people have believed humans do not possess. I saw genuine love for another living being, with no thought of reward or benefit. The Empress paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was softer. You remind me of someone I once knew. A dragon who taught me that strength is not measured by destruction, but by the courage to care for others. That dragon died long ago, but today, through you, I see that lesson again. Daniel did not understand what Velmora meant, but he understood that she was not going to hurt them. Slowly, his fear began to ease into confusion and curiosity. What do you want? Daniel asked carefully. Why are you telling me this? Because I must give you a choice, Velmora said. Her golden eyes grew sadder. My daughter cannot stay here with you. She is a princess of the Draconic Collective, and she must return with me to her true home. But you have saved her life. You have shown her compassion when she was dying. Because of this, I offer you a choice. The Empress moved closer, and Daniel fought the urge to run. But he stayed where he was. You may return to your life, Velmora said. You will be permitted to leave without punishment. Or if you wish, you may come with my daughter. You may become her guardian and teacher. You will be honored and cared for, and you will help raise a princess of dragons. What is your choice, Daniel? Daniel looked down at the baby dragon. She was looking up at him with trust in her golden eyes. He thought of Emily. He thought of all the life he could have lost if he had not acted with compassion that day in the tunnels. And he made his choice. Daniel did not hesitate. He looked directly into Velmora's burning golden eyes and spoke words that would change his life forever. I will come with her, Daniel said firmly. I will be her guardian. I will teach her everything I know. I will care for her as if she were my own daughter. Velmora's expression did not change, but something shifted in her eyes. A hint of approval, perhaps, or recognition of his courage. She nodded slowly, and the motion seemed to shake the entire tunnel. Then it is decided, the Empress said. You will leave your colony today. You will never return to your old life. This choice cannot be undone. Do you understand? I understand, Daniel said. And he did. He was choosing to abandon everything he had ever known. His job, his home, his entire human life on Threshold 7. But he also understood that this was the only choice he could make. He had been given a second chance. He had been given the opportunity to save a life the way he could not save Emily. He would not waste this gift. 2 days later, Daniel stood aboard Empress Velmora's throne ship, watching the Threshold 7 colony disappear into the distance. The station grew smaller and smaller until it was nothing but a speck of light against the vast darkness of space. Daniel felt sad leaving his old life behind, but he also felt a strange sense of peace. He was exactly where he needed to be. The weeks that followed were difficult and strange. Daniel had to learn the customs and ways of the Draconic Collective. He had to understand dragon culture, dragon history, and dragon philosophy. Everything was different from human life. The food was different. The language was different. Even the way time was measured was different. The dragons counted their days in cycles, not hours. But Daniel adapted. He was intelligent and resourceful, qualities that had made him a good mechanic and now made him a good guardian for the young princess. He began to teach Lyris about human kindness and human creativity. He told her stories about Earth, about music, about art, about the beauty of human emotion. He taught her that strength was not only about power and dominance, but also about compassion and understanding. Lyris was a quick learner. She grew rapidly as dragons do. Within months she was already the size of a large dog. Her bronze scales became brighter and more beautiful with each passing day. She followed Daniel everywhere, learning from him constantly. She learned human language by listening to Daniel speak. She learned human values by watching how Daniel treated others with respect and kindness. The other dragons in the palace found this arrangement strange and unusual. They had never seen a human treated as an equal member of the royal household. Some of the older dragons were suspicious of Daniel, wondering if he was some kind of human spy or if he had some hidden agenda. But Velmora silenced all criticism with a simple command. Daniel was to be treated as a member of the royal family. His word was to be respected. His opinions were to be valued. As months turned into years, something remarkable happened. Daniel and Velmora began to understand each other. The Empress would often visit Daniel in the gardens where he spent his time with Lyris. She would ask him questions about human nature, human history, and human philosophy. Daniel would answer honestly, sharing both the beautiful and ugly parts of human civilization. In return, Velmora taught Daniel about dragon culture. She shared the history of her people, stretching back thousands of years. She explained the dragon philosophy of honor, duty, and the importance of family bonds. She spoke about the mistakes her species had made, including their arrogance toward other civilizations. She spoke about how they had refused to see value in creatures they considered inferior. "You have changed me," Velmora told Daniel one evening as they stood together watching Lyris practice flying in the sky. The young dragon was graceful and strong, her movements swift and confident. "You have shown me that wisdom can come from unexpected places. That strength is not the only measure of worth." Daniel smiled. "And you have given me a second life," he replied. "I had thought my purpose was finished when I could not save my daughter. But now I see that I was meant to meet Lyris. I was meant to save her life so that I could help her grow into a wise and compassionate leader." "Do you regret leaving your people?" Velmora asked. Daniel thought about this carefully. He thought about his old job, his small apartment, his solitary life on the space station. He thought about the loneliness he had felt for so many years after Emily died. Then he looked at Lyris, soaring through the sky with joy and freedom, and he looked at Velmora, whose ancient eyes now held understanding and warmth where once they had held only cold ambition. "No," Daniel said. "I do not regret anything. Every choice I made led me here. Even the pain of losing Emily led me to this moment. I believe that somehow my daughter knows what I have done. I believe she is proud of me." Velmora placed one massive claw gently on Daniel's shoulder, an expression of affection among dragons. "Then we are both blessed," she said. "You have taught me that there is more to strength than power. You have shown me that the smallest acts of kindness can reshape the future. Because of you, I have decided to open diplomatic channels with human colonies across the galaxy. We will no longer see your people as inferior. We will see them as partners and equals." Daniel felt tears of joy fill his eyes. His decision to stand between Velmora and Lyris had not only saved a young dragon's life, it had also changed the course of history for two entire civilizations. One act of compassion had rippled outward, creating waves of change that would transform the future of millions of lives. As Daniel watched Lyris soar through the purple sky of the dragon homeworld, her bronze scales catching the light of twin stars, he understood that he had finally found his true purpose. He had been meant to be here all along. He had been meant to show the dragons that humans possessed something as valuable as their ancient power. He had been meant to teach them about love. 6 years had passed since Daniel first created bubbles in the dark maintenance tunnels of Threshold 7. 6 years since he had chosen to leave his human life behind and become the guardian of a baby dragon. In that time, everything had changed. The world, or rather the worlds, had transformed in ways that no one could have predicted. Princess Lyris stood in the great throne room of the Dragon Kingdom, wearing a ceremonial crown of pure gold and precious stones. She was no longer a small, frightened creature. She had grown into a magnificent dragon, her bronze scales shimmering with an inner light that seemed almost magical. She was strong and intelligent, graceful and kind. She represented something that had never existed before in dragon history. She was the first hybrid heir, a princess who had been raised with both dragon and human values. Daniel stood beside her, wearing formal clothes given to him by Velmora's court. He was older now, his hair turning gray at the temples, but his eyes still held the same warmth and kindness that had saved Lyris's life so many years ago. He looked at the young dragon with pride and love. She was his daughter in every way that mattered. Empress Velmora sat upon her great throne, looking down at her daughter with ancient, wise eyes. The court was filled with thousands of dragons, all gathered to witness an event that would never be forgotten. Representatives from human colonies across the galaxy stood beside dragon nobles, united in a way that would have been impossible just years before. Today, Velmora's voice boomed through the throne room, we celebrate not just the coronation of a new heir. We celebrate the beginning of a new era. An era of understanding between dragons and humans. An era of cooperation instead of conflict. An era of peace. The Empress paused, and her golden gaze found Daniel in the crowd. This new world exists because one human showed compassion to a creature he did not know. One simple mechanic created bubbles from maintenance supplies to calm a dying dragon. He asked nothing in return. He expected no reward. He acted purely from the goodness of his heart. Velmora stood from her throne, and the entire assembly fell silent. When the Empress stood, tradition demanded that everyone pay respect. I declare before all dragons and all humans that Daniel, the gentle mechanic, shall be honored as a bridge between our peoples. He shall be known as the human who taught an Empress that strength and compassion are one. The throne room erupted in cheers and roars. Dragons extended their wings in a gesture of respect and honor. Humans applauded loudly. Daniel felt tears streaming down his face. He had never sought recognition or fame. He had only wanted to save a life. Yet here he was, being honored in a way that few beings had ever been honored. The coronation ceremony continued through the evening. Lyris walked slowly to the center of the throne room, and Velmora placed the crown upon her daughter's head. As the crown settled into place, magical symbols lit up across the entire kingdom. Lights flashed in the sky above the palace. Music played from instruments that humans had never heard before, creating melodies that seemed to come from the stars themselves. After the formal ceremony ended, there was a great celebration. Tables filled with food and drink were set throughout the palace grounds. Dragons and humans mingled together, talking and laughing, sharing stories and discovering common ground. It was a scene that would have been impossible to imagine just years before. Daniel stood in a quiet garden with Lyris, watching the celebration from a distance. The young dragon's scales caught the light of the palace lanterns, creating beautiful reflections. "Do you remember," Lyris asked in her deep musical voice, "the day you found me in the maintenance tunnels? Do you remember the bubbles?" "I remember every moment," Daniel said, smiling. "I remember how frightened you were. I remember thinking that I had only minutes to save your life." "You did save my life," Lyris said. She lowered her great head, and Daniel reached up to place his hand gently on her bronze scales. "But you did more than that. You taught me that love is stronger than fear. You taught me that compassion is more powerful than strength. You taught me that the smallest creatures can do the greatest things. And you taught me," Daniel said quietly, "that there is always a second chance. That when we lose something precious, we can find meaning by helping others. You gave me a reason to live again, Lyris. After I lost Emily, I thought my life had no purpose. But through you, I found that purpose." Lyris was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke softly, "I have a gift for you. Something I have been keeping secret." The dragon led Daniel to a private chamber in the palace. Inside, on a great stone table, was a holographic display. It showed a message recorded long ago in digital format. A young girl's face appeared on the screen, and Daniel's breath caught in his throat. It was Emily. His daughter, recording a message before her illness took her life. Her voice, which he had heard only in memories for so many years, filled the chamber. "Dad," the holographic Emily said, "if you are seeing this, it means I am gone. But I want you to know that I am not sad. I want you to know that I believe you will do great things after I am gone. I believe that you will save lives and help people just like you tried to save me. I believe that one day you will be proud of what you accomplish. I will always be watching you from wherever I go. I will always be proud of you. I love you, Dad." The message ended and the hologram faded. Daniel fell to his knees, overwhelmed by emotion. 6 years of pain, 6 years of guilt, 6 years of wondering if his daughter had known how much he loved her, all dissolved in that moment. Emily knew. Somehow she had always known. "Your daughter gave me a gift before she passed away," Lyris explained. "Her consciousness was uploaded to our data systems before her death. She has been watching over you all this time. She has seen everything you have done. She has seen how you saved me. She is very proud of you." Daniel wept, but these were tears of joy and healing. His daughter's spirit had guided him all along. Every choice he had made, every act of kindness, every moment of compassion had been witnessed by the one person he loved most. The next morning, Daniel stood on a balcony of the great palace, watching the twin suns rise over the dragon kingdom. Below him, thousands of dragons and humans worked together, building new cities and forging new alliances. Commerce flowed between species. Art and music were shared. Knowledge was exchanged. Two civilizations that had once seen each other as enemies were now learning to live as friends. All of this had begun with one simple act. One human had made bubbles to calm a baby dragon. That small gesture of compassion had changed the fate of millions. It had united two worlds. It had created a new era of peace and understanding. Daniel closed his eyes and whispered a silent thank you to Emily, to Lyris, and to Velmora. He had been given a second life and he had used it well.